Now, as you can tell, it's very, very windy here and it is going to pour down very soon. But I'm down here in between showers before it really gets going to take advantage of that coming water and to get some bare root strawberries in the ground. So they were on offer and it's a little bit earlier than you normally do it, but I've got fleece. We're going to give them a go and we're going to see what happens. Now obviously it's our first year on this plot and so we don't have a lot of compost, so I'm going to be using a little bit of a cheap method just to get us started. Obviously without all lovely compost to use, we started by using what was here already and some not very well rotted compost. I've also brought down now some spent compost, some used compost from previous tomato plants and things, so there won't be much nutrients in there, but I'm going to top up the strawberry bed with that. And then I have some lovely, luscious, dark black compost that I'm going to put a scoop of, that I've had to buy in, but I'm going to put a scoop of that in the bottom of each hole I dig and then place the bare root strawberries directly on top. So we're not going to have a huge amount of strawberries coming up this year, particularly given we're planting in the cold season as well, but it'll give us opportunity to get something in the ground and have something to look forward to as soon as spring arrives. One of the things of permaculture I love is the idea that nothing is wasted, or as little as possible is wasted, and I really want to go for that in this allotment. Again, I'm not going to get it right the first year. I'm learning as I go, and who knows, perhaps I'm going to learn that I shouldn't have done a lot of stuff along the way, but that's all part of the journey, right? We've all got to start somewhere, and when you don't have compost to start you off, then you have to do the best with what you got. I don't have a lot of money. You know, I can't afford to go out and buy gallons and gallons of mulch and things. So we will use what we have and we will improve as we go. So then, let's see what we've got. We have got Cambridge favourites. We have got Pegasus, and we have got Honeoye. So they've come like this, so they're looking a little bit sorry for themselves, but that's the nature of their roots. And we're now going to get them in the ground. So the first one we had was Cambridge favourite. So I'm going to do five, sorry, of these little plastic tags. Cambridge favourite is a mid-season variety with a steady, reliable cropping rate. It has a lovely traditional strawberry flavour, so it's great for traditional recipes, and it produces medium-sized, soft berries, but they are particularly juicy. It is noted for strong disease resistance compared with other older types of strawberries, and it does have a vigorous growing habit, so lots of abundant runners if you want to grow and propagate the next season's plants. Another reason why it's a favourite is that it's tolerant of a wide range of growing conditions. It performs well, particularly in open beds and raised rows, but it's also good for mixed planting because of that consistent cropping. It is a very well understood variety of strawberry. Writings and articles about how to look after and grow these successfully are abundant. So for a new grower like us, this is a really good one to go for. All this being said, that soft flesh does make it less suitable for long-term storage or for transporting, for things like picnics, things like that. They bruise a lot more easily. And this can also be an issue if they're left too long on the plant. Do make sure you get in there and get them off as soon as they are ripe enough for harvest. There is a bit of a limited season window with this particular variety. They're not particularly early and they're not particularly late either. And they do have a susceptibility to crown rot if you're in heavy or poorly draining soil. The fruit size changes if nutrients are low in the soil, so this can be a good identifier of when you need to give them a little bit of extra feeding support. It's also good to be aware that slugs and birds tend to really go for soft berries, so they're going to target this one a lot. So lots of netting may be required here for us. Plants can become congested if you don't regularly get those runners off and manage that. So we will need to keep an eye on that on the allotment. But that being said, they're going to be a good mid-season addition to your plot, and they're going to spread those runners very, very quickly. There's going to be a lot of them, so you're going to be able to increase your plant numbers very, very swiftly. I must say there were lots of worms in here. I'm having to dig very carefully, so I don't hurt any of them. It's a really good sign. Lots of worms and lots of white mycelium mushroom stuff, which is fabulous. So nice rich compost, dark black compost going in the bottom of them. Give them a good chance. And then in he goes right up to the top. Now they say you should soak these in water before planting them, these bare roots, but given that we are planting out of season, that we will have some frost coming that I need to protect these from, plus a huge amount of rain forecast, I don't think we need to worry too much. So I'm putting them in as they are, completely dormant, and letting them rest in well until the spring, when they can start doing their thing. Meet Honeoye. Honeoye is an early season variety, and it's reliably among the first to start producing fruit on an allotment. It produces particularly large and uniform berries, and it has particularly firm flesh. So this makes it really well suited to handling, so getting the children involved with picking, or if you want to freeze these for later use, they're going to do particularly well. They have a bright glossy red colour, making them really beautiful in displays and on cakes and things like this. And they are particularly vigorous, producing very high yields early on in the season. This, of course, means that they have a good cold and frost tolerance for early flowering sites. They perform well in lots of different soil types as long as it is free draining and fertile. So this is really useful if you're taking on a new allotment and you're not quite familiar with the earth that you have to work with. It does have a compact growth habit though, so this would be a good one for raised beds or even containers due to that. This being said, it is considered to have a less flavoursome character to it than the more heritage dessert types. And it is susceptible to fruit misshapening if it's not pollinated well. So if you don't have lots of blooms and lots of bees buzzing around your allotment or garden, you might need to give this one a little bit of a hand. It's also good to know that it's not as resistant to some mold and viruses as some of the more modern varieties. In fact, it's particularly prone to grey mold if you have a very wet season. And also, if it is producing lots of fruit that particular season, if it's got a particularly heavy yield, it may produce fewer runners. So, if increasing the number of plants you have over time in your allotment is one of your priorities, this might not necessarily be the one to rely on. If there is a drought or your plants are stressed for any other environmental reasons, say if you have to leave it to go away from home, and do be aware that the leaves show some scorch or stress, might need a little bit of tidying up afterwards. Do also pay particular attention to mulching. It's really important to keep these fruits clean and also reduce the slugs. So I'm purposely not filling this bed very high because I want to turn this into a no-dig bed. I want to build upwards. So, because we do need to improve soil quality here. So layers and layers of compost and mulch and loveliness will really help us to do that over time. Pegasus is a good mid to late season variety, and it's won multiple awards for its performance. It's got medium to large glossy berries with a really good flavour, and they have a beautiful texture when you eat them as well. So they melt in the mouth kind of experience. So if you're somebody that loves to just simply pick and eat, these are going to be a firm favourite with you. The plants hold their fruit really well, so if you want to use this in succession planting, it's going to be very, very good for that. And it has a semi-evergreen habit, so leaf cover is going to make good ground cover on the allotment when it's not fruiting as well. So that also means that the plants are very robust. Their crowns are particularly healthy, and as long as you look after them, they do retain that health of the crown. And the flavour is quite well balanced. So we've read shelf life, flavour, resistance, performance. It's a really lovely one to have in place for the end of the season. Do make sure, like all strawberries, that soil is free draining, but this one needs particularly fertile and somewhat moisture retentive. So if you do have very sandy soil, you're going to have to work a little bit harder to give this the consistency of moisture that it really needs. It has a reliable disease profile because it's a newer cultivar. So when compared with some of the older varieties, this one is definitely going to be outperforming them. So for allotment beds, small scale production, this really is one to consider. That being said, there are also some other considerations to bear in mind. It needs a sheltered sunny site to really get its best flavour going. So do consider things like windbreaks, as our berry bushes here have created at Mossy Grove Garden. If you have a particularly humid summer, they're going to be more susceptible to that grey mould. So do bear that in mind and keep an eye on that. It is going to be prone to losing fruit quality, as mentioned earlier, if it doesn't have very consistent water supply. So if you have a drought warning for the year ahead, it may be worth considering if this is going to be one to maybe put on the back burner, so to speak, for another year. The later cropping season of this plant does also align with higher pest numbers naturally, so there is going to be a little bit of extra pest pressure there. It's also worth noting that it's not going to give you as many runners, particularly when compared to the others that we've looked at. If your beds are over congested, if you have too many plants in one space, they can suffer with powdery mildew and other leaf diseases. So make sure that they have lots of air around them when you're planting. Don't give them too much food either. Over fertilizing for this variety can actually reduce the intensity of the flavors. If you do see any leaves that are looking less than healthy, you're probably going to want to pick them off to reduce over winter disease carryover because of the lateness of that season. I'm going to try and keep in a straight line, but I'm not overly worried in a bed. These plants are all going to grow at different rates anyway, aren't they? All different sizes and things. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little look around and see what I might be able to use for mulch. I know we have lots of leaves gathering by the bushes, although I'm going to need to be very careful not to take any of that bindweed along and transport it into the strawberries. But let's see what we can find to use as mulch. Great source of leaves here. Some have already started to drop down, so this will make an ideal mulch for those strawberries. I don't want to remove too much, of course, from these established plants because they also need the leaf mulch as well. But a little bit, I'm sure, won't hurt them. And we will, of course, make sure not to get any of those bindweed roots in here as well. Little tip for you. If cutting fleece on a very windy day, perhaps work out the size you need and do it before you arrive at the allotment. The rain is coming. It really is picking up now. I need to hurry up and get in the dry, I think. And our mystery beans are going to get a bit of fleece as well, I think. It might survive yet, we don't know. Securing it with these hooks and these little plastic discs that stop it from ripping the membrane or the fleece, whatever you're using. I'm going to put a few layers over these. I'm not going to lie, I've made a right mess of this. But my legs are shaking, I'm tired, and I've got to manage to walk back home as well, back to base. So sometimes an it will do is better than a it didn't happen at all. And I'm afraid that this is going to be one of those occasions. Quality's not great, but it's doing the job, and we can make it look pretty later. Time to get tidied up and put away because I am seriously hurting. Oh, crikey. Oh. What the heck's that? Okay. I'll reveal all on the next episode. Prayers and potions.